some part of your plan that requires that you be accountable. Some people have a commitment to themselves and they're very accountable to themselves and they do very well. Other people have to have a commitment to like getting a piano teacher. My commitment is I'm going to have a piano teacher come every single week, and that piano teacher is going to push me and keep me going every week. And part of my plan is I'm going to pound on the keyboard and practice 4 hours a day. And then what brings that goal into fruition is the sacrifice that you make. So growth requires sacrifice all the time. And the sacrifice is simply this. In order to do something, you have to give up something else, because we can only do one thing at a time. And everybody's limited to 24 hours in a day. Nobody has more than that. We all have the exact same resources in reaching our goals in the sense of time. So if you have a real goal, a real plan, a real commitment, a real sacrifice, you will reach your goal. And you will grow. Even if you don't quite reach your goal, you still grow. So if you say, okay, so this year, 2020, I am going to completely cure my diabetes. I'm going to revert. Sorry to use that word. Can't use that word. I'm going to completely reverse my diabetes to where all of my tests are normal, so I fit in the normal category. Okay, is that possible? Yeah, for the large majority, for 98% of people, that's entirely possible. So that's your goal. And then the plan is, what's the plan? Well, I have this book called the Barton Publishing Diabetes Reversal Kit. And this Diabetes Solution Kit. And so I'm going to work that plan exactly. I'm going to follow it and go by the book. And then the commitment I'm going to make is I'm going to join the 6 and 10, the 6 and 10, right? Is that what we said? Yeah. The program. And then the sacrifice I'm going to make is I'm going to give up the things I love to eat. I'm going to give up eating after 6 o'clock. I'm going to give up dinners. I'm going to give up some of my favorite foods, spaghetti. And that's the sacrifice that I'm going to make. And if you do those things, then you will reach your goal.
Mm-hmm. And, that's like the 610 reset plan, our group. I posted the link on the chat for everybody. But if you click on that and you can join in, and Leslie will approve you to be a part of that. But that 610 reset plan, that's basically stop eating at 6 o'clock so that you can have an empty stomach by 10 o'clock at night and then go to bed on an empty stomach. And that's a sacrifice as well. And that's, we've talked about how difficult that can be just because of, life and also habits. And, it's typically the time of night where you're winding down. You might watch TV or something, and it's easy to grab some food then or whatever. But yeah, if you make that sacrifice, the health benefits are just continue to astound us, like how beneficial that is for everybody. So do you want to talk a little bit more about that 610 reset? We'll probably get a few new people to join that in that Facebook group. And
yeah, so the number one most important factor of your health is not what you eat. It's not your exercise program. It's not drugs. The number one most important thing is stress. Stress will ruin any great diet, exercise and diet program. Stress is, I can't emphasize how important stress is. So how do you deal with stress? Because stress is a part of life. You can't avoid stress. Any change can be stressful. Every change is stressful. But so what we do is we keep our adrenal glands very functional so that we can handle the stress. So our bodies aren't overly stressed when we do have changes and stress comes into our life. And one of the best ways to do that is to have a really good circadian rhythm. The circadian rhythm is your sleep-wake cycles. You're awake all day, you're asleep all night. Awake all day, asleep all night. That cycling that we have is called the circadian rhythm. And most people have a very narrow circadian rhythm where they're half asleep all day and half awake all night. And they're just very narrow in this narrow range. But in order to have a really good circadian rhythm so that you can handle stress really well, it requires two main things. Actually, let's do all three. Three things. One is no food after 6 o'clock. And that's why it's called 6 in 10. That no food after 6 o'clock means really you go to bed on an empty stomach. If you have a huge meal at 6 o'clock, like you ate a half a pizza and drank a pint of beer, that's going to take 8 hours to empty out of your stomach, and that's not going to work. The rule is to have an empty stomach when you go to bed, and then to go to bed at 10 o'clock every night, because those hours before midnight are the deep sleep hours that you need to release human growth hormone, so that you can build your muscles and rebuild your body and rebuild your joints and all the damage that you've done. Fix it all. Every single night you can fix it. So you don't have to inject human growth hormone. You can actually just go to sleep at 10 o'clock and that'll be fine. So that's what the 6-10 reset is. It's every day you're resetting your system, rebuilding, repairing, because your stomach's empty when you go to bed at 10 o'clock. And then the third thing is to wake up in the morning and have breakfast. Too many people skip breakfast and they don't get their adrenal glands started by eating breakfast. In fact, there was a really good study that showed that an apple was better than a cup of coffee for getting the adrenal glands started and for keeping up the energy. So both the apple and the coffee worked okay to get people started, but the apple lasted longer than the coffee. So you're better off eating breakfast than drinking a cup of coffee in the morning.
Oh, well, that's cool. Yeah, a good healthy snack is apples and peanut butter that I've talked about in the past. And so that would probably be a good morning breakfast as well, right?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Yeah, peanut butter adds a little protein and fat, and apple gives you some good fiber, and it's got sugar in it, but you're going to burn it off pretty fast, right? And so you could still have a pretty much ketogenic diet with an apple or a small apple in the morning, right?
Yeah, mostly the sugar in the morning is actually less important. Avoiding the food at night is really the most important part of that. Having an empty stomach when you go to bed is really important.
Mm-hmm. And so if someone is trying to stay in phase one, 20 grams of sugar or carbs in phase one, and I think it's under 40 in phase two, the apple, like we talked about this too, but it's more the net carbs as well. And so there is quite a bit of fiber as long as you're eating the peel. And I don't know if people eat the core. The core would probably be good fiber too, but
I eat the core. I eat the whole thing. The only thing I throw away is the stem.
Okay. Do you eat the seeds?
Yeah, I eat the seeds.
Well, there you go. That's some great fiber then. That makes that helps lower your net carbs for the day too. So
I learned that from somebody who went to Germany. He lived in Germany, and I was in college, and I was sitting next to him, and he was eating an apple, and at the end he had 5 seeds in a stem sitting on his desk, and I'm like, "What? You ate the whole thing?" He goes, "Oh yeah, in Germany that's the way we always do it. You just eat the whole. You don't have an apple core."
Wow. Well, you learn something new every day. Well, that's good. Well, hey, we're getting a lot of people on the call that are joining in the 610 reset plan. So that's great. Let's see. Why don't I do a quick little screen share if I can? And I'm going to just kind of walk people through this. So here is the Facebook group 610 reset. And you can see the members in here. We're just kind of getting this going. But the first post here was about a month ago. this is the protocol Dr. Saunders created to improve health. The 2 big rules, 6-10, stop eating by 6 p.m. and be in bed by 10 p.m. And really it's the empty stomach. So we've talked about if you ate pizza at 6 o'clock, your stomach is probably not going to be empty at 10 o'clock. But if you ate a salad, you could probably eat a light salad at 7 o'clock, and that would empty out pretty fast. So, and then we've got a form that you can fill out. This is a daily tracking form. We're going to update this. Skip, good recommendation on putting morning blood sugar into this. So this is just a quick check-in form that you can sign up for, and you'll get an email every day that reminds you. So there's something about taking small actions and building habits. And so this just kind of keeps you mindful of what your goals are and tracking your numbers. So your morning weight, this will all just be your own, for your own information. Did you keep your carbs to around 50 grams? I think we want to say under 50 grams. So we'll get that updated. Did you stop eating at least 4 hours before bedtime, usually around 6 p.m.? Did you go to bed around 10 p.m.? And then give yourself points. So this is just kind of a fun little way that you get some points, and you just keep track of these numbers to keep you on track with the 6-10 reset. And then also there's a spreadsheet here, a Google Doc that we created that you can use, and print this out would be recommended. So, or make a copy of your own. So we had somebody that had filled this out in here, which is fine. You can just delete those and put in your own numbers, but those won't be shared. If you make a copy of, it's a Google document, and just either print it out or make a copy of it, and then you can keep track. So it's got your morning weight, your morning blood sugar, blood pressure, number of carbs that were eaten, time of your last meal, whether you went to bed, your bedtime, with stomach was empty. And so it's another good way to track that. So whichever one you prefer. And then inside of the Facebook group, we've got, just different posts, different discussions. We love to have people comment and just say hello to each other and encourage each other, reminders of our webinar, and just different things along the way. So Leslie posts different things in there, some fun salad cookies, different articles. So come on into the 610 Reset group, get active, share, comment, like, post, and we look forward to having you in there. So, all right.
So there are other ways, other kinds of things, like when people are setting goals, there's all kinds of other goals you can set. I mean, a lot of people that I work with like to have weight as a goal, and so they look at what's their ideal body weight. So if for every pound you have to reach your ideal body weight, you can do like a broth, just drink broth for that many days. So it's about a pound a day. I had somebody who had more than that because he had a lot of water weight, but most people lose about a pound a day on a broth cleanse. And so at the end of a broth cleanse, reaching your ideal body weight. So if you had a goal of, okay, I weigh 200 pounds, I should weigh 150 pounds, I have 50 pounds to lose, so I'm going to do 50 days of just drinking broth. And I've had people do this. That the goal is very specific, it's time limited, it's a specific weight. The plan to reach that goal is a pound a day, and that's actually very doable. A lot of people do that, so you do 50 days of broth, and then by the time you reach your ideal body weight, you won't have diabetes anymore. It'll reverse all of that stuff. So when you set your plan, you got to make sure that plan is going to reach that goal. But that's how fast people can do it. So I've had people cure their diabetes or reverse completely their diabetes in 30 days. It's
awesome.
entirely possible.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, let's transition this time to taking your questions. And so if you're in the Zoom, meeting right now, there's a Q&A section at the bottom that you can click on and ask, type in your question. Otherwise, you can put it in the chat, and I'll try to sort through those as well. And so, okay, so about that form that I showed, if you go, Shelly, if you go to the Facebook group, the 610 Reset, it's in there. It's linked at the top. It's pinned to the top of that page. Let me see. So it's the December 4th announcement that Leslie posted. There's a form underneath the tracking section of that, and underneath, right under that, number 2 is a spreadsheet. So that should help. So we had Pam shared, and Pam is one of our favorites. She'd been with us from the beginning. We've talked with her a couple different times, and she said we had a devastating loss a few days ago. Could you talk about how to manage stress and sadness? I know it affects my numbers, and I'm hurting so much. So first of all, Pam, we're very sorry to hear that, and that's okay. Yeah, it's hard.
Can I address that?
Yes, please.
Okay. When people have a loss, and there's all kinds of losses, anywhere from business losses and financial losses to divorces and deaths, and some of them are obviously more devastating than others. If you have somebody who's very close to you dies, that's much more stressful than if it's somebody that you hardly know. And that makes perfect sense. The separation is as part of the stress. And so what has been shown in research is that the more connections you have with other people, the better you're able to handle that stress. So when we talk about people who have, like in the blue zones, the long-lived people, the people who live the longest, everybody says, oh, it's because they're drinking this special wine, or they're drinking olive oil, or all of these other foods, or whatever, their exercise or walking every day, all that. That's not really what the research shows. The research is actually best shown that these people have connections. They have a lot of connections to other people. They connect to relatives, distant relatives, cousins, and friends, and they have regular face-to-face connections with people, and they have close connections, and a lot of them. So being isolated is the most stressful thing. If you want to stress out somebody who's a hardened criminal, the only thing you have to do is isolate them. If you isolate somebody, solitary confinement kind of thing is the worst kind of punishment you can give to somebody. It's the most stressful thing. So when you have these kinds of losses, then the best thing to do is to reach out, and in the natural thing sometimes is for people to pull back and go inside themselves. But if you look for who you can connect with, that will help you relieve the stress better than anything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's so good. My mother passed away just a little over 5 years ago, and it's been really hard on my dad because he's all alone now in their house, and he's very social to begin with, and so my sister and I and others do what we can to try to just keep talking to him every day and keep him encourage him to go to Walmart and go to go out for coffee and go to church and different things like that. So yeah, being community, that's good. Face-to-face is important too, like you said. Phone call is great, but if you can do, in person is best. If you can do video on your phone or iPad or something, that's good as well.
It's a really interesting statistic is that men who lose their wives, as a rule, live for about 1 year, whereas women, after they lose their husbands, live for about 5 years.
Yeah.
So, women tolerate that kind of stress generally, I guess, more than men do in many ways.
Yeah. I suppose sometimes that's because the men are older, possibly.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah. But my dad was actually 13 years older than my mom, and he's, yeah, like, and honestly, he says often, like, I just want to go, be with her. And it's really sad, like, to hear that. And I don't
Yeah.
know what I can do, but like, it's, yeah, but it's, people sometimes are afraid to enter into relationships because they're afraid of losing them someday. But I think the rewards of having that relationship far outweigh the loss. Like, it's worth it, right?
Yes, yes. And that has been borne out in so much research. It is so true what you just said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, let's see here. So yeah, if you want to ask the questions in the chat, that's fine, or then in the Q&A section on Zoom as well. And then if there's any in Facebook, Leslie can post those to me and I'll see those here. So let me catch up a little bit here. And Leslie, if you want to just go ahead and hop on and ask them, feel free. I'm going to just read through the comments here. So Skip, it sounds like real quick, you said that the Nervala has been working for you. I would love to hear more about that if you want to hop on. And it looks like you had a couple other things here too. So we'd love to have you join us again on video if you would like. Love to hear your Nervala story and tell people why you were taking that and how it's helped. So, okay. Shelly, glad we're helping you, and thank you for saying that. Yes, Dr. Saunders, she said, you guys are awesome. Thanks for caring about us, unlike our own doctors. God bless you both. Thank you. Skip says, there seems to be a link between the vagus nerve and diabetes. Can you discuss that?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. It's just not true with everyone, but this is a general, and it's been known for many years that generally some people just have their vagus nerve is creating diabetes, and the vagus nerve comes from the brain. And it's the autonomic nervous system that controls all the things that you don't have to think about. You don't have to think about your digestion. You don't have to think about your blood sugar levels. You don't have to think about your temperature or how much you have to breathe. You don't go, okay, gotta take another breath. If you had to think about all that stuff, you'd just spend all day going, okay, beat one more time, heart, one more time. Okay, keep going. So the vagus nerve controls all that stuff. Well, what was really interesting is these rats who were genetically predisposed to diabetes, they had diabetes, and so the researchers put an injection of a substance P, of something that blocks or depletes the nerves in the vagus nerve. And so they put this injection around the vagus nerve to block off the connection to the pancreas. And all of a sudden, the pancreas started working again. It was like normal, like they didn't have diabetes anymore. And these rats were perfectly normal and could eat anything they wanted and didn't have diabetes. And it was a type 1 diabetes where they weren't making any insulin at all. So the vagus nerve from the brain, so what it means is that the brain, the autonomic nervous system from the brain, was shutting off their pancreas, and that's how they got diabetes. So and that's related to the stress thing that we were talking about. I told the story once of a woman who we could not get her blood sugar down. We were giving her insulin like crazy. She was getting 10 times the usual dose of insulin, like 200 units a day, plus all these drugs she was taking to try and control her blood sugar, and it wasn't working. But then when her daughter moved out into her own apartment, they became best friends, and all of a sudden they weren't fighting anymore, and her blood sugar came back to normal. It was like totally normal, no drugs, no insulin, anything, was just working just fine. And so that was the stress-induced diabetes, and that's the vagus nerve diabetes. That's what he's talking about.
Okay.
So some people have a very strong, because of the stress, shuts off the pancreas and they end up with diabetes. Other people, it might have a mild effect, and some people have no effect at all.
Okay. Wow. Okay, Skip, I just gave you access to join us, and if you want to, I think your audio is on. Yeah, if you can turn your video on too, we'd love to see you.
How do I turn it on my iPhone?
Oh, you're on the iPhone. It should be, if you're on Zoom, I think there's a button on the bottom left of the screen that should say Start Video.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Leslie, any help there?
That help?
Not yet. I don't ever use my phone, so for Zoom, I'm not familiar.
That work?
We're not seeing you yet.
No, what did you do?
I hit one of the buttons on there trying to get it work.
Oh, well, that's okay. We'll just go with audio today.
All right.
Yeah. All right. So tell us about your journey a little bit, and then we'll talk about Nervala.
Well, I'm now happily retired at home and enjoying it, although I've had a bad cold for the week and just recovered from that. However, I'm taking Nervala for some numbness in my right foot, in my little toes over there. Not the big one, but the four smaller ones have a slight numbness to them. I really don't feel until I get into bed, and that's reduced. It's still there a little bit, but it's getting better. So I'll assume that taking this for an extended period of time should help, reduce the numbness there. So it's worked for me.
Great. Yeah. It's designed for. I'll show you a picture quick. Let's see. It's called Nervala, and I named it Nervala because it helps with your nerves, and the ALA at the end is one of the two main ingredients is ALA, alpha lipoic acid.
Yep.
Video camera is not the greatest, but so Nervala, it's a play on words with Nirvana. It just helps your nerves feel better. And so I posted a link in the chat. If people want to learn more about it, you can go to bartonwebinar.com, and that's actually all the products that we sell are listed on there, all the ones that are related to blood sugar, diabetes, nerve pain, things like that. So, but yeah, I'm glad that's working for you, and keep us posted on that.
Yeah, it's really been a great benefit, and I appreciate you all having it.
Good. Yeah, and you've taken Synachroma in the past as well. Like that's our number one seller, the blood sugar.
I take one every day, but so far it hasn't made any difference in my blood sugar that I can tell of.
Okay.
But then, it could be that it's just not what I need.
Yeah. And Dr. Saunders could speak on that. I guess we would probably have to look at your numbers differently. And sometimes the Nervala also helps with blood sugar as well. So, but Scott, he mentioned something that I think would be good for the season that we're in. He talked about how he's getting over a cold right now, and I think you might have a little bit of a cold too. But what are some things that we can do this time of year when we're inside more, we're not getting as much sunshine, maybe not as much activity? What are some quick things to help get over our cold quickly?
Okay, great question. So number one of the reasons there's seasonal colds and flus is because during the winter time, we don't get the sunshine that we normally get to produce vitamin D. And vitamin D is really important for viral illnesses, which colds are, because there's a vitamin D binding protein, GCMAF, that is activation of the NK cells, the immune part of the cells that get rid of the viruses. So one of the things that is very helpful is to take vitamin D during the winter. You don't have to take it during the summer when you're getting a lot of sunshine, but during the winter when you're not, when you're fully clothed and you're staying indoors more and you're not getting sunshine. And even if you do, it's really interesting. is during the winter, because the sun comes in at a lower angle, you don't get as much of the light that produces vitamin D anyway. So even if you were out sunbathing, you would get much less vitamin D than during the summertime when the sun's more overhead. So vitamin D, I usually recommend about 50,000 a week. I've had people taking 10,000 a day. That's usually pretty good. Just during the winter time. You don't have to take it all year long, just 3 months during the winter. And then if you travel, you know how you get on a plane and you're breathing the same air as all 300 people on that plane, then before you travel, take like 5 of those 10,000, 50,000 units before you get on the plane. And I've had people swear to me that actually works to prevent getting colds, people who got colds all the time on planes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing, if you say, oh, I'm getting a cold, or I got one already, or whatever, and you've taken the vitamin D, then the zinc lozenges, zinc vitamin C combination is actually, multiple studies have shown that is useful. So, but here's the key. So the zinc pills, when the studies that showed it wasn't useful, is because they were using it too infrequently. They were doing it two or 3 times a day. No, that's not enough. It's like every hour to 2 hours, you're taking another one of those zinc pills, zinc vitamin C combination.
Yep, I can vouch for that. We use zinc often here. It's the first sign of any type of cold or sore throat or anything like that. We take vitamin D a lot as well, but the zinc seems to really help nip it in the bud, as they say. So good question, Pam, about whether in the vitamin D in Synachroma. So Synachroma has 125 micrograms, which is 5,000 IUs in one pill. So her question is that sufficient, or should I take more than that?
Often that's sufficient. That's the low end of enough. That's on the low side. Because people usually have more than one source of vitamin D if they're taking a multivitamin or something on top of that. So this is the physiologic dose on the low side. And people often, for many people, that's enough, especially if they're having other pills they're taking that have a source of vitamin D. But up to 10,000 a day. So between 1 and 2 pills is where where vitamin D is optimal.
All right. Okay, Skip, thanks for joining us. I'm gonna turn you off now, but always good to hear from you, Skip. Thank you.
Welcome.
Oops. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off as you was talking there. Okay, let's see. All right, so we had another good story from, was it Jane? I've also experienced good results from Nervala. Just started my 2nd bottle, and numbness of feet has reduced very much, and odd occasional sensations in limbs and torso, like needle jabs, have completely stopped. Very pleased about that. Yeah, wow, that's awesome. That's great to hear. Thanks for sharing that, Jane. That's that's one of the great things about Nervala.
Yeah, my dad came up with neuropathy. He has pre-diabetes and didn't even have diabetes. And his doctor's like, yeah, no problem. You don't have diabetes. But he had numbness in his feet. And I'm like, no. So I put him on Nervala, and he's doing really well. He's traveling right now. He's doing great.
Well, good. All right. The Q&A section is filling up here. Okay. Joseph Raymond, I've just been diagnosed and it's confusing with all the changes. So is there someone in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan that could help me to get organized and get started? So, question for you, Joseph, is whether you've already purchased the diabetes solution kit. And if so, then that's the great place to start as far as just reading that. And then also, Dr. Saunders has put together the what we call the masterclass video series, and that is a series of we condensed it to 6 videos. There were actually about 20 of them, but we put them into sections of 6. And so those Dr. Saunders taught us in depth, went through the diabetes solution kit on video, and is a great place to start if you're having any troubles. But Dr. Saunders, do you have anything other than that? Any friends in Moose Jaw?
No, I don't think I do. However, you can look up. I know there are plenty.
Oh, you muted. Somehow you muted yourself, Dr. Saunders. You have to hit unmute.
Okay, I'm sorry. So there are plenty of people in Canada because I've worked with them, and the way to look for this is look for somebody who does either integrative medicine or functional medicine. And very often on the internet, you can find somebody in your area that does, or talk to doctors and ask them, who does integrative medicine in your area? Because we know each other, and sometimes you can talk to like acupuncturists or nutritionists, and they'll know who the doctors are that are referring to them. Chiropractors often do, and sometimes the chiropractors are doing functional medicine. So just start looking in your area for integrative or functional medicine, and you'll find somebody to be able to help you.
Yes. Awesome. All right. Hope that helps, Joseph. Feel free to ask another. Oh, he just did. Oh, so I made so many products. Where to start? Yeah, I think, we lay out pretty clearly in the diabetes solution kit in here. This is just, I would start at the beginning. Page 1. Page 1 says start here. And just, go through it. This is really a workbook. You can write in it. There's places, space in there for you to write. There's a pledge. There's, we talked about, making a commitment. That's in here. Writing down your reason why, what your goal is, what you want, to feel like and look like after achieving your goals. And then, so another question from Robert was needing help with a meal plan. And so that is also in the diabetes solution kit. And again, if you don't have a copy of this, go to bartonwebinar.com. And that's where we have our products linked, where you can order from there and you can get one of these. If you haven't gotten a hard copy, I highly recommend that. You can get that from that as well. So we'll ship that right out to your door. You'll have a workbook. You can take it with you to the grocery store. We've got meal plans. We've got recipes. We've got grocery lists, what to eat, what not to eat. Here's the grocery list right here with just an example, a couple pages worth here. All the good foods that are, so like a lot of people say like, oh, it's going to be so hard, I won't be able to eat any foods. But man, you look at this list, like there's a lot of good stuff on here. And a lot of the recipes in here are really tasty. And we got stuffed chicken breast, Cuban chicken tenders with black beans, fresh ginger and mint chicken, baked halibut with mustard crumbs, fancy tuna sandwich, Indian curry fish stew. This is just, picking a few. Coconut rice, pineapple zucchini bread, pizzas, risotto with fresh asparagus. So there's all sorts of good stuff in here. And we talk about too, the main thing of the diabetes reversal plan is lowering your carbs. That phase 1 is 20 grams of carbs per day, and then getting your blood sugar levels to a good healthy level. And once you get the blood sugars, then you can move to phase 2, which is 40 grams or less of carbs per day. So Dr. Saunders, could you talk about how like diabetes is basically a carb, like your body has a hard time processing carbs? Is that a good way to say it?
Well, in a way, yes. If you think about it, diabetes is just an overload of carbs. That's really all it is. It's just the cells store carbohydrates. We store, it's called glycogen, which is sort of like a starch. And we store these sugars and starches because it's really important. We need these sugars and starches for us to function, for our brains to function, for our heart to function, for our muscles. We use that all the time. So we store some, and as we eat more and more and more, we store more and more and more. And eventually the cells get so much that they can't store anymore. And they're like, okay, we're done. We can't take in anymore. And they block the insulin from bringing sugar into the cells. So that's what we call insulin resistance. And then if that goes on over time, then the blood sugar starts going up because now your cells aren't bringing sugar in anymore. So every time you eat, your blood sugar goes really high, but it can't go into the cells and it can't be used, so it just stays in the blood. And that's what we call diabetes, is high blood sugar. But really, it's just an overload of carbohydrates. So our plan is to just drop those carbs so low that you have to start using up all that sugar that's stored in your cells. And once that gets all used up, then those cells open up and become sensitive to insulin so that they can bring more sugar into the cell again. And then your blood sugar will drop down naturally, because that's the way the cells work. They need that sugar, so they're going to start sucking the sugar out of the blood and getting it back to normal again.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a great program.
It is, yeah. Well, we're gonna wrap things up here. I want to point people to bartonwebinar.com, and from there also you can go to our YouTube page. We've got a link to our YouTube channel with all of these webinars that we've done over the past 5 or 6 months. They're all recorded, and on there you can watch them. There's a lot of great information, a lot of different questions answered, a lot of topics that we covered. And so just go to bartonwebinar.com and you'll see links there. If you haven't gotten a copy of the Diabetes Solution Kit, also, you can get that there as well. Synachroma and Nervala that we talked about are on there. And let's see. We're also going to get a link to the Facebook page, the 610 Reset. That's going to go up on Barton Webinar here shortly, if it's not already up. It's already on there. It's right underneath the YouTube the webinar video. So where it says click here to join the 610 Reset Facebook group. So yeah, and then I just wanted to close out with a disclaimer that's important. The video content, this webinar has been made available for informational and educational purposes only, and it's not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions that you may have regarding your own medical situation. So never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you've read or seen here. So, all right. Well, with that, this has been a great call. Thanks, everyone. Good to be back here in 2020 doing these every Tuesday at 10 o'clock Central. We like to do these. And we appreciate the interaction with each of you. And our goal is to help answer your questions, help you to reach your goals, help you live with good blood sugars, and lots of good stuff here. So, Dr. Scott, thanks again. You're actually coming to visit me this week, so I'm excited to see you. Get to play some golf in the 20-degree weather.
Yeah. I'll bring a jacket this time.
Bring a jacket this time. Yes. All right. Well, maybe we'll hop on a live Facebook video together as well from the channel in there. So be looking for that. But all right. Well, thanks everybody. And as we sign off here, I sometimes like to ask Dr. Saunders for a joke. If you've got one, put him on the spot. It's always good for a dad joke.
Okay, well, okay, so, I grew up, I was blonde, and so I heard a lot of blonde jokes when I was young. So this blonde guy goes in, and he needs work, and he's just like really having a hard time finding any work. And so he starts knocking doors. Is there anything you need to do? And he finally finds somebody that says, oh yeah, there's some blue paint. There's some blue paint out on the back, and I want you to paint the Porsche. So he comes back and he knocks and he says, "Okay, I'm all done. And by the way, it's not a Porsche; it's a Ferrari."
Oh, that is a good one. Okay, Leslie, you need to disconnect us before